It was a cold December night in 1984. The city of Bhopal, India, slept under a blanket of unseasonable chill and complete, unsuspecting peace. Around the city's vast upper lake, the quiet was profound, broken only by the occasional distant cough or the soft murmur of restless sleepers. But perched on the northeastern edge of this ancient city, a modern metallic behemoth stood guard. This was the Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant. For years, it had loomed over the crowded, often impoverished slums of the surrounding neighborhoods. A dark factory churning out chemicals designed to eradicate life, not sustain it. Tonight, this factory was not a place of production. It was a pressure cooker of lethal negligence. The chemical at the heart of the operation was methyl isocyanate, or MIC. A colorless, invisible vapor, deadly even in small doses, capable of triggering agonizing pulmonary edema and immediate neurological shutdown. It was the perfect invisible weapon, stored in massive, corroding tanks that had long been abandoned by proper maintenance. For months, the plant's internal alarms had been ringing, dismissed as bureaucratic noise. Safety systems were either turned off to save money, corroded beyond function, or simply never repaired. The caustic soda scrubber, designed to neutralize escaping gas, was set for maintenance. The steam heating system, which would sterilize the delivery lines, was broken. The flare tower, meant to burn off any runaway MIC, was disconnected. Every layer of defense, every failsafe designed to protect life, had been systematically dismantled by corporate indifference. The stage was set for a nightmare of biblical proportions. In the final hours of December 2nd, the inevitable chain reaction began in tank E610. Routine procedural errors allowed water to mix with the deadly MIC stored inside. The temperature began to rise uncontrollably. The pressure gauge, designed to max out at 25 psi, shuddered past 40, past 50. At 12:30 a.m., an employee heard a shrill, piercing screech from the plant tower. It was not a mechanical sound. It was the sound of metal tearing itself apart under stress. A maintenance supervisor tried desperately to pump water into the tank, hoping to cool the reaction, but the pressure was too immense. It fought back. In seconds, the concrete lid over the tank cracked open with a muffled, terrifying thud. Then, silence, followed instantly by a hissing that grew to a roar. A pale white plume, heavy and dense, began to boil out of the ruptured pipe, hanging low to the ground. It was methyl isocyanate vapor mixed with carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, and nitrogen oxides. A chemical cocktail of death, heavier than air. The wind, cruel and deliberate, caught the deadly cloud and began to push it. Not up into the atmosphere, but down, sweeping directly into the sleeping neighborhoods closest to the plant. The Shanti Nagar and Chola Road slums were the first to be embraced by the vapor. It moved silently, an invisible tide sweeping through the alleyways and under the cheap doors of the homes. The awakening was instantaneous and horrific. People did not wake to sound. They woke to pain. They felt an overwhelming burning agony in their chests, as if molten metal had been poured into their lungs. Their eyes felt as though they were filled with sand and acid, searing shut, trapping them in total blinding darkness. Mothers grabbed their infants, only to feel their tiny bodies seize and fall limp. Fathers tried to scream for their families, but the moment they inhaled, the poison shredded their vocal cords. It triggered uncontrollable spasms of coughing, vomiting, and tearing. The gas attacked the lining of the lungs, causing them to flood with fluid. Victims were drowning on dry land. Panic erupted. Thousands poured out onto the streets, stumbling blindly. They thought the factory was on fire. They thought it was some terrible plague. They did not know they were running directly into the path of the killing cloud. Those who fled inland found temporary relief. Those who ran toward the factory, searching for answers or escape, were immediately consumed by the dense, low-hanging poison. The ground was littered with stumbling, choking figures. their bodies twisting in spasm. The speed of the death was terrifying. Within minutes of inhaling the heaviest concentration, victims suffered cardiac arrest and brain damage. Animals were the first indicator of the severity. Dogs collapsed mid-bark. Buffaloes tied to posts fell silently to their knees. The streets, moments ago filled with frantic runners, began to fill with still, silent bodies. As the cloud expanded, it engulfed the main railway station. Sleeping passengers, awaiting early morning trains, were killed instantly, their faces frozen in expressions of final agonizing surprise. The engineers driving the first incoming train slammed on the brakes as they saw the bodies piling up on the platform, only to have the gas fill their own cabin, stopping the train forever. The city's medical infrastructure collapsed instantly. Doctors at Hamidia Hospital had no idea what they were treating. The Union Carbide management refused to release the name of the gas, claiming proprietary secrets even as thousands gasped their last breaths. When the name methyl isocyanate finally reached them, they possessed no antidote. They could only guess, treating symptoms with antibiotics and guesswork, futilely trying to keep lungs breathing that were already liquefying. Dawn broke over Bhopal on December 3rd, revealing a scene lifted straight from the darkest circles of hell. The air still carried the metallic, terrifyingly sweet scent of the gas. The streets were choked with corpses. Houses were tombs, containing entire families who had simply died together in their sleep, preserved in the very posture of rest. Initial death tolls were impossible to ascertain, but the city's ability to cope was non-existent. Mass cremations and burials began immediately, overwhelming the city's resources and dignity. The immediate deaths soared past 5,000. The final tally of those killed by the immediate effects and the subsequent chronic illnesses due to exposure has since climbed into the tens of thousands. And the horror did not end when the gas dissipated. The survivors were left with permanent scars, chronic respiratory failure, debilitating neurological disorders, reproductive damage, and severe eye injuries leading to lifelong blindness. The invisible killer had retreated, but its residue seeped into the ground, poisoning the water supply. To this day, the site remains contaminated. Union Carbide, later acquired by Dow Chemical, evaded meaningful accountability. The toxic groundwater continues to affect second and third generations, leading to birth defects, tumors, and developmental delays. Children born decades after the leak carry the spectral footprint of that poison in their DNA. Bhopal is not just a chapter in industrial history. It is a terrifying, dramatic warning whispered across the decades. It is the story of a city that slept and awoke to find that profit had outweighed life, that safety systems had been dismantled by greed, and that an invisible killer had crept out of the darkness, leaving a perpetual silence in its wake. It is a chilling reminder of what happens when the machines we build become gods we ignore, and the chemical nightmares they hold are unleashed upon the innocent world.